yourself, right? All right. So anyway, to the three of you, thanks for joining. It's always fun to have a laugh to start off the day. Yeah. So,
For sure.
what got me thinking around today's discussion, and Daphne and I have had chats around it during the past month or so, was I'm reading fantasy novels, and within my fantasy novels, I'm picking up a whole lot of leadership lessons, which I will like to go through with you guys one of these days. But I went to fetch my son from karate, and I was driving home, and it was just before Avengers Infinity War. The Avengers had two. They had Infinity War come out, and then they had the other one, Endgame. So what happened with Avengers Infinity War and Endgame is it was actually a whole series of Marvel movies that started off with Iron Man. He was the first one. And
I'm impressed.
there was, I think there were 14 or 15 there were 17 different Marvel movies that came along, and each one led into the next Marvel movie until the last two being Endgame and Infinity War. So my son is obsessed with all of this, and he starts watching YouTube, and he's getting very excited about the movies that are coming up, and Infinity War is coming, and I need to now take him to the Heroes of Comics and Games store because he needs to buy his Captain America outfit. So for me, I started saying, well, why Captain America, boy? I mean, like, what makes Captain America the choice, I mean, of the superheroes for you? Because the Avengers, I think there's 7 or 8 of them. So you got Captain America, you got Thor, you got Iron Man, you got Black Widow, you've got, for me, the new one that I really like is Captain Marvel because she's quite hot. So what makes Captain America for you the guy? So it turns out that it's not just for him. That for Captain America, of the Avengers, there's 3 they're known as the big 3. There's Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man. So Iron Man is kind of in the middle because Iron Man is a human, and what the guys really enjoy about Iron Man's character is he's funny, he's quirky, he is a billionaire, so he's a philanthropist, and he's putting together this team of Avengers and offering them like super outfits and all sorts of things. But Iron Man is really a billionaire philanthropist and with a very quirky personality. Then that left you with Thor and Captain America. So what happened with Thor is towards the beginning of the series, and I'm going to get on to Captain America in 2 minutes, the very beginning of the series, Thor was kicked out of his hometown. He was kicked off his planet, and he ended up on planet Earth. And the reason that happened was because he wasn't true to who his being was. He wasn't true to himself. And they almost sent him to Earth to kind of find out who he is again. Thor has this hammer called Mjolnir. Thor's hammer can only be wielded by someone who is true to themselves and who believes in the good of others. And as soon as that happens, then Thor's able to pick up this hammer and actually use it, and no one else can use it. Thor also has a superpower of breathing in lightning, and he's the god of thunder. Then here comes Captain America. And to me, I look at Captain America as this prissy oak, and to me, there's nothing really special about him. I mean, Thor shoots lightning from his eyes, and he's this big, strong oak, and Iron Man does make me laugh, but Captain America is really almost like this goody two-shoes. So I said to Shane, well, why Captain America? There's nothing really attractive to me around Captain America and his personality. He says, no, Dad, Captain America, everybody can relate to him. So I said, well, in what way? He said, because the other guys do have superpowers, whereas Captain America's got superhuman powers. So I said, well, what's the difference? He says, no, well, where Thor can fly and Thor can shoot lightning from his eyes and all these other super guys within the Avengers have these types of abilities, Captain America is the only one with superhuman powers. So he can't do anything that a human can't do, just he's enhanced. And the other thing for him to become Captain America is he needed to prove himself in such a way that he kept on going to the army. He was resilient. He kept on going back to the army and kept on saying, please, can I join the army? Please, can I join the army? And he was a skinny little guy who had nothing going for him, but he kept on going back. And he said, I'm honest, I'm true. I really want to be here. And out of everybody in the army, he was like the one guy that was always on time and always available to others, and he was always there. And then the guys in the army said, all right, well, would you be keen to try this serum, which he took, and it then enhanced all of his human powers to be the Captain America that we know today. So I said, okay, well, that's all very good and well, but still, I get that he's relatable and I get that he's human. And then Shane says, but he was the only other Avenger that could actually use and wield Thor's hammer. So I said, and what makes that important? He said, because he's true to himself. The hammer can see that he doesn't have a facade about him. And the fact that the hammer's allowing him to actually wield it is accepting him as a leader. So in one of the scenes where they were all sitting around a campfire and Thor was bragging about this hammer that nobody could lift, Captain America actually went to this hammer and he lifted it slightly. When he realized that he could pick it up, he actually put it down because he didn't want to embarrass Thor in front of the rest of the team. And when it came, that was in one of the movies earlier on, but when it came to him later on in the end game, Thor realized that Captain America needed some assistance in this big war that they were fighting and actually threw this hammer to him because he knew that he was true to who he was and he could wield this hammer. And he caught it, and obviously the Avengers won. It was a big war and everybody was very happy. But so it really got me thinking, well, why Captain America versus everybody else? And what makes it relatable, firstly, to kids? Why is YouTube saying that Captain America's the number one Avenger? And the simple reason is there's nothing fancy about him. The simple reason is he believes in who he is, he believes in others, and he's able to use his superhuman strength in order to enhance and improve everybody else's ability within the team. And that's what makes him a good leader. So this is what got me thinking about today's discussion. And Daphne and I have been chatting about it. And within a couple other sessions, I want to go through what makes my wizard a good leader. He's come with a whole lot of different rules. Turning the wizard's got to follow a whole lot of rules. But it's along the same lines that leadership is not so much seen as a dictatorial thing. It's a way of enhancing your team and growing other people to come along with you. And for me, that was the discussion that I wanted to bring up today to say, well, how do we, number one, find our own superhuman powers? And Daphne and I again came across a lovely little article with some nice questions that we're going to share. But that's where I want to start off and just move over to Mrs. D.
Thanks, Jason. So before we kind of pitch in, I'd love to hear what resonates for you from that story. So 2 questions. One is, are you quite into the whole superhero phenomenon, which has come out of movies, and it's really a movement almost that people, it's a culture in a way that people have really become involved, become a big industry. So are you part of that? You know, is that something that speaks to you? And the second question is, from Jason's story, what are you relating to? What resonates with you? You know, his description of the different superheroes and Captain America. Who'd like to go first?
Yeah, maybe I'll throw in a few thoughts. I guess there was a time, Jason, and I can identify with you, especially when you have young kids and when you're a kid yourself, where, the superhero stories really kind of, enthrall you for various reasons, I guess. When you're young, it's always about the fighter in you, in the superhero, the fact that you're a good guy versus the bad and so on and so forth. And I think, the theme through all of this is the good versus the bad, whatever your definition is around that. And then definitely your second question, I sort of fundamentally believe that, leadership is about taking people along. I come from a sort of an era where, the hero is the altruistic philanthropist, the kind of person who, stands up against, evil. And I mean, classically, if you were to ask me to think of a leader, almost instantaneously, perhaps 2 or 3 names would come up, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, and so on and so forth. So I'm very much of that era, of the leader being, the leader of people, and taking on, challenges that are about good versus evil. But I kind of also think that, leadership in a sense is also situational. Leadership today in the corporate environment means different things. And I think, fundamentally, this whole concept of leadership is also misunderstood. I myself am confused. I often used to sit in extended meetings, senior executives, and they'd sort of extol onto us, you guys are leaders and so on and so forth. But I don't think they fundamentally understood what leadership actually is, because, nobody was able to transition my thinking from, fine, yes, this concept of leadership, but this is what it means for you circumstantially. Often I had to do that myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a question on that, Anil. Do you need a team to be a leader?
I don't necessarily think so, Jason. Again, when I said circumstantially, if I sort of relate back on my most recent experiences, I kind of almost, perhaps another sort of cliche, would consider myself a thought leader, in the sense that, I thought differently. I was able to utilize, knowledge. I was able to utilize, let's say, the strengths of others, in a very sort of innovative and novel way. And so, I mean, that's one example. The other example, and I'm a practicing Hindu, very much caught up in the sort of Buddhist tradition, and there's that whole concept about, leading yourself, in a sort of a spiritual sense of the word. And I guess, coming back to what I said earlier on, this is why this whole concept of leadership tends to kind of confuse me. Because in the one circumstance, it means good versus evil. In the second circumstance, it means taking charge of yourself, taking charge of your decision, taking charge of your life. In another sense of the word, it is saying, well, you're part of a broader social or community, and, in a sense, you have a duty and a responsibility to be actively involved with people around you. And often, the best measure of success for a situation like that is that, when you start out versus when you leave a sort of a community, hopefully the community is better off in the sense of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. You've raised so many amazing points around leadership. So I think it's awesome, but I do want to just hear from the others and then let's kind of open the conversations in this direction.
I'm happy to shoot after what Anil has to say. And I think one of the some of the points that Jason has raised in terms of the superheroes, and I think your theme, Jason, is actually very interesting. However, what Anil has actually turned around to say is that possibly through life, as you get older, your leadership values seem to change dramatically. I don't know if that's a point that we're addressing, Anil. And you do so much during your time, and you ask yourself, can I tick the boxes of what I've done in terms of leadership, and has it been to the good of the community? Like yourself, I've committed many years to our community of our Jewish synagogue, and there are times where you, as a leader, turn around and people start looking and saying things to you that become a little bit out of place. And I retracted myself from being that leader in our community. It was easier for me not to hear them turn around and say, well, that synagogue is yours because you've done so much. And I would say, no, that synagogue belongs to the community. And through that community, I've built the community, which is virtually now, with me pulling out, has collapsed. That doesn't mean that I was the leader, or that I think I did right by our community. But having said that, and then you take a look at the things that you do through your lifetime, the leadership changes. What are important as we get older? And what are the lessons that, in terms of leadership, that you can possibly relay to a younger person? And there's so much in terms of lessons. I don't know if you're resonating with myself, Anil, in what I'm saying.
I think I do. Yeah,
I'm almost of the opinion, sorry, just to interrupt. Does leadership change, or does the way does the concept of leadership change, or does it enhance? I don't believe that leadership changes. I don't believe that the way that one.
I think you got to look at the balance of what's happening. If you take a look at leadership and the current, and I'm going back to the economy, and yesterday at the Investec talk was very interesting, and they referred to the leadership of the past American presidents. They went back to the Bushes and Clinton and Obama, and they saw gentlemen that are dressed with suits versus the rubbish that Trump is doing versus this new, what's his name, Boris Johnson from from England. And they took this analogy of what was to what's happening and the new politics that's happening. In our own country, the new politics is aggressive, it's violent. And that's what's happening out there in the world. So does leadership change? I believe it does, Jason.
Okay.
Okay, let's hold on. Let's give Dean a chance, and then we can really open the discussion wherever it goes. But we'd love to hear from you, Dean.
Okay, so I've always been a fan of these superhero movies. I can watch them again. So I should probably sit down with your son, Jay.
You're more than welcome. I've watched them about 4 times from start to finish, each and every one.
I can relate to that.
when Endgame came out, you had to go and watch the other one just to make sure you were caught up.
No, not just the other one, all the other 16.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
One, by the way. There's the Spider-Man one where he goes to the UK. So
really?
And that's got I think it does look back at Endgame a couple of times.
But just so you know, just to put you all in the picture, Spider-Man's the start of the next series.
Generation. Okay.
Because he's a teenager.
Yeah. Okay, carry on.
So yeah, I've always been a fan, and I like the points that you speak about regarding those top 3, and I think they're all relevant. And the fact that young kids are realizing and actually seeing that it's a superhuman leader as opposed to all of these sort of fantasy type of skills, if you want to call them that. I think that's fantastic. that they're actually seeing that sort of leadership. The things that I took away from what you said was, I think being true to yourself is incredibly important. If you're not true to yourself, how can you lead? It's just not going to happen. If you're fake, people are going to see through it. So being true, I think, is aligned with not being fake. You have to be an honest individual, and that is going to come through. Nobody's going to follow somebody if there's doubt, if there's no credibility involved. And then I think setting an example that others would want to mirror is fantastic. I think maybe I shouldn't say it in this forum, but I'm pretty sure my wife would be very happy if I had a Captain America outfit.
But that's a way.
You mean you don't have one?
Well, I may, but I'm not going to say.
I've got a Deadpool one.
I think this is awesome. I want to put in my. Did you have anything more? Sorry, Dean. Before
No, that's me. I'm good.
I want to put in my 2 pence worth, as they say.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I think that a couple of things that, firstly, I'm not into the superhero movies at all, but I've had to become very much part of it because my children have completely been absorbed in this whole, like I say, culture almost, and even got my husband to start watching, and he was loving it, and they were having these discussions. And I think that what's amazing is that when we take fantasy stories that are so in alignment with what's gone in our real world, and that what they actually do is they allow ourselves to, they allow us to appeal to our highest self. Because as we all said here, it's good versus evil. Ideologically, every single person wants good in the world. We're here to actually create good, make a difference, and do something worthwhile. We all want to feel meaningful and significant. And this is what the superhero culture is allowing us to do, to appeal to our highest self and really go out and do what we want, which is the best for the world. And the other side of that is exactly as you said, Jason, around that superhuman qualities. We're not saying, we want to be in that world of make-believe where if only. It's actually taking what's already within us and enhancing that to a level of a superpower. And for me, what's so relevant and so important here is that we all have that ability. We actually, every single one of us has a superpower that is within us. Unfortunately, we don't always recognize it. Sometimes we take it for granted. We don't always use it, own it to the best of our abilities for whatever reason, comes up for us. But we all have that within us, and it's part of leading ourselves and being true to ourselves so that we can use all of that in the work that we want to do out there, which all of us are doing, and that is fighting good versus evil. And then all the little complexity and nuance and confusion around leadership is because we're really trying to make sense of it in different ways, in different situations, in different with different challenges. But I think at the heart of it, that's what's there, and that's why that whole superhero concept and America has really taken the world by storm.
Yeah.
I like a point that you made, Dean, and this is the importance of, I guess, we talk a lot about the fact that we don't have role models anymore, and I think these superheroes. Yeah. For me, the purpose, particularly with the younger generations, is that they do become that. The superheroes are a form of role models. And I'm glad in a sense that these role models have the qualities that that you described earlier on. The Iron Mans and the Thors and so on and so forth. Because I just think over and over again, particularly with the way the world is going at the moment that you alluded to, Desmond. Sometimes we need to find a way to ground ourselves. And maybe, the purpose of some of these movies is to kind of provide that to a generation, where this whole concept appeals slightly differently, in a sense, yeah.
Yeah. And, I love the whole idea of role models, because I think that's another really, really important part of leadership. So if we look at, in my mind, what leadership is, it really is about how we influence, first of all, ourselves, starting with that, then how we influence the people around us. So we spoke about that. We can't get results, we can't get what we need on our own. We need to bring our people along with us. And then how we influence our environment. So whether it's our business, our community, our synagogue, whatever it is, how we influence that environment, how we bring us to that. And a big part of that is how we behave. I mean, it starts with us. How do we behave? How do we set an example? How do we role model the type of leadership that we want other people to display around us as well? And it all begins from inside.
Yeah,
so that's where, sorry, Neil, just to carry on from where I wanted to take this talk is to actually say, well, how do you find that superpower within yourself so that when you do walk out of your offices and rooms today and you do interact with the world, that they see your superpower? How do you bring that out and actually show that to the world to say, well, have a look, this is me, and this is what I bring as a leader?
Yeah. And I start with identifying it. So not before you do, how do you bring that? How do you know what is your superpower?
Exactly.
So if you had to ask that here, what is your, would you be able to say, what is your superpower?
Jason, I don't really know. And the point I was going to make earlier on, and I'm glad you asked the question because it leads directly to that. You know, I often sit back and if you look at you mentioned Trump and Boris and, we've got Juju in South Africa and so on and so forth. At the heart of it is, it's kind of really, as a leader, what is your motive? Why is it that you do what you do? What drives you? And I think for me, that's an important fundamental. Desmond, you talked earlier about the fact that leadership changes. I kind of believe that leadership is a bit of a maturity continuum as well. If you look at, the leaders that have made the world what they are, to me, they just strike me as being extraordinarily mature in the sense that, they themselves have kind of defined their own higher purpose, which goes back to this whole thing about motive.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, I think, you can only lead perhaps, and you can only be seen as a credible leader if your motives are really genuine. If what drives you, is altruistic, is concerned for the greater good, is concerned for communities, is concerned for humanity, and so on. I think these are the kind of things that people latch onto. I can't explain just from what I said now, the popularity of people like Trump and Boris Yeltsin and so on, because I do think to a certain extent they're thugs in the guise of leaders. But
Boris Yeltsin or Boris Johnson?
Sorry, Boris Johnson.
No, I'm with you. It's on.
Yeah, so again, definitely when you spoke, the word motive and maturity kind of really struck a chord with me.
Okay. Yeah.
Can we? I'd like to make it more kind of. I'd like to touch something that is really kind of resonant with you guys, with each of you. So I would love to kind of pose that question of. I completely get the motive thing and the idea of doing work around what is your purpose? Why are we here? Why are we waking up every morning and doing what we do, going to work and all of that? What is the ultimate thing that is driving us? Because I think that's core to who we are and how we show up in the world. Together with that, there's the element of really identifying what is that thing that we are so good at. And certainly what I've noticed from the work that I do with people is that whenever we look at that I'm talking about your inherent, innate talent, something you're so good at that people will often mention to you, Anil, when you do this, it looks so easy and it just flows and I'm so jealous, I wish I could do this. And you actually think, oh, doesn't everybody do that? It's so natural, it's so part of us that we don't even think it's a strength. That's where our superpower lies. Because it's something that is so fundamental to our being that we just show up naturally like this. And when we can recognize that's actually a talent, it's actually a superpower, not everybody behaves this way, we have something really unique. That's that superhuman power that we talk about with Captain America that is just way enhanced. We don't even notice it. I think we need to start noticing that, because that's our true kind of unique ability. And that ties in, because when we know, do the work around what's our purpose, what's our why are we here, what's our motivation, marry that with our superpower or innate talent, unique ability, whatever you want to call it, then we kind of are, then we fly, then we do those good versus evil, then we do what we're meant to do in this world in the best possible way, and things flow. So, you know, sometimes things feel like a fight and a push and everything's hard and it's like things don't work. That's when we are fighting against the noise in the system. But when we really are able to tap into our unique ability, and every single one of us has that, we need to start looking in that place, marrying that with that sense of purpose and why, then that's our unique combination. So if you sat for a moment and just thought about what is that thing that we do so well, and it can be as simple as, you know, really listening, or really being present, or really being able to connect the dots, or being able to do amazing mathematical calculations, I don't know, but something that seems, okay, that's just how I am. That's kind of where we want to look for our superpower.
And Daphne, just to move on for a second from that, I mean, if you're struggling to figure out what it is that is easy for me and difficult for everybody else, 9 times out of 10, well, not difficult, what you find is easy, and it should be like a no-brainer for other people. And if you don't know what that is, 9 times out of 10, people actually tell you. They come up to you and they give you compliments. They say, oh, Des, you are so good at this. Or Des, how come you did that so easily? Or I love the way you do this. And generally, we also just brush that off. You don't actually listen and take it in. So if you listen and take it in and accept it, but you will be able to marry the two together, exactly as Daphne said, and figure out where your superpower lies. So coming back to your question, Daphne, what is it for you that is coming? No, just for everyone. What is it for you that is coming up?
Yeah, what is it? I mean, let's think of an example. If I look at, I'm happy to share my own, which is, and we do have a few, so it doesn't have to be just one that you know to pick, because that can be like, what's the one thing, you know, just something that comes up. I know for me, listening is the thing. So I often get told how I'm such a good listener, and that when I'm listening, I'm so present that people feel that, you know, I really get them. And that's something that just comes naturally. And I kind of, oh, is that like even a thing? You know, is that like even a thing? That was like really, you know? And it's like, look there. You look in those days like where you think, is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing. And it might be surprising to you. So I'm curious to know if anything's coming up for someone that you're thinking, oh, that might be the direction.
Yeah, I guess definitely, you know, from what you just said, you know, sort of people, the feedback that you get kind of from the world, you know, and Jason, the point that you make, you know, now that I think about it, you know, is that often we're very dismissive of that feedback, because I've been in situations like most of you, where people have told you, yeah, you're really good at something, you know, and something that I get complimented on time to time is my facilitation skills, you know, the ability to bring people along to sort of a common point, and then use that to sort of take people on or take a process on a journey. You know, more often than not, you know, I kind of find that you don't really take cognizance, you know, of those sort of pearls that people throw at you. And therefore, you know, you tend to trivialize it to a certain extent. And, you know, I guess in doing that, you're actually dismissive of what your real strengths are. And if you're if you are dismissive about it, you know, how can you really then end up becoming good at it? Because if you can't recognize it, then there's not much that you can do with it, you know, in a sense of the word.
Awesome. Yeah. I love what you say. I want to actually comment on 2 things there. So I don't even, Anil, I don't remember, I don't know what you do, but I'm willing to bet that the facilitation is somehow related to your core strength or core skill. Like, for example, I'm originally an actuary. I've got a strong mathematical ability. So this whole listening thing was like such a surprise. And I'm willing to bet that there's something similar there. So look at the things that might be a little bit surprising as a bit of a tip for everyone. And Anil, absolutely what you're saying is that when we can recognize it, and really say, okay, focus on this and say, how am I going to use this today? How am I going to use this in this meeting? How am I going to use this in this interaction? Our ability, kind of our ROI on that just increases hundreds of times over. So, and I want to reinforce that as well, Anil, because I've noticed that in this short conversation that we've had, you take what people say and you go, Jason, what you said about and Des, what you said about, and Dean and Daphne, and you like comment and you bring it all together, so I can already see it how it's shown up. This space, just like that. So that's
just a quickie whilst you're referring. Sorry, I take it that the only thing you got from Dean is his superhero onesie. Is that
right? Yeah, me too.
Captain America outfit. Dean, what's coming up for you?
Well, apparently I should go get changed.
We're all waiting.
But all of us, Daphne.
You've already seen it, Jay.
I know.
Talking about the onesie.
All right. Well, I think the point around listening to people to recognize stuff, because I've been sitting here now quietly trying to figure out, well, what is it? And I've got a couple of colleagues that have said to me, and Dean, I'd go to war with you. And I mean, not actual war, because I don't want to go and fight anything. But the point is that I think what that translates to is being trustworthy. And I think that if you are inherently trustworthy, you're going to have people that will automatically follow you, because you don't necessarily have to prove yourself the whole time if that sort of thing flows through. And I think what I do set out to do, and I don't always get it right, is if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Sometimes it takes a little longer than I say, but I will eventually get there and I will do it. And that adds to additional credibility. And if you can follow through, it's important. If you're well aware that you cannot do that, then don't say it. Don't say you can do that, because people will notice that, you know, you're a lot of talk. I think Jason and Desmond can relate to a colleague that recruited us at a previous employer, where a lot was said all the time and there was very little follow through. And eventually there was no credibility and nobody believed the guy, even though he was really good at bringing people together. So those little fundamental items that should come through day in, day out, naturally, I think are incredibly important.
I love what you're saying about you've spoken about two different things, but I think they're very related. And you spoke about the trust, like, you know, I'll go to war with you because people know that you have their backs, and whatever happens, you will, it's kind of related to, you will do whatever you say you'll do. You'll do what it takes to make sure that, you know, that person or whatever that situation will be looked after, okay, whatever the case is. So that's like a strong element of trust at the bottom, the way I see it. And then to me, the manifestation of that is that when you say something, you will get it done. And people know that about you. So I want you to notice that there's kind of a deeper layer. The deeper layer is that layer of trust. People just know that you will go to bat for them no matter what. And I would imagine it's like when you have that strong relationship, or, you know, you won't just go to bat for everyone, but when you establish that kind of strong relationship, people know they can trust you and they can rely on you, and you will go to bat for them. And how that manifests is in behaviors like when I say I'll do something, I'll do it. I will not commit if I can't do it. I will only commit if I can. And that kind of thing is a huge superpower. So well done for acknowledging that. But I want you to see that deeper layer of that absolute trust. When someone's got your trust, they know they've got a friend for life type of thing. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, interesting. Dina, you know, the word I would use somewhere in what you said is this whole word of the word integrity. You know, and Daphne, you sort of alluded to that. But I've sort of been reflecting on the conversation that we've had. And I mean, and there's a hell of a lot of things that we've spoken about that is really deep-seated, you know, sort of value-driven. You know, it sort of poses the question that, you know, if you kind of really want to be a leader of people, a leader of yourself and so on, it kind of really boils down to what it is that you hold fundamentally true to yourself, in a sense of the word. And you know, that those fundamentals, if you look around you, if you look at great leaders, it's those fundamentals that actually launch people into being fantastic personalities, into being fantastic leaders, and so on and so forth. So, you know, I mean, this is not a spoken truth, but I think, you know, we touching on those core values, and we again asserting the importance of those core values as the sort of the primary drivers for what we do and how we interact with the world.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that ties in beautifully to core values. That's part of who we are, our kind of innate, you know, what drives us, part of our motivations, you know, linked to that as well. So
yeah, precisely. And, you know, if our motive fundamentally is to do good, then guess what? If our motive fundamentally is to do bad, or, you know, to be disruptive and so on and so forth, guess what we see as an end result?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just my little bit.
Yeah.
At this point in time, in terms of your motive, I think the one portion that's really sort of your question, Daphne, was what really sort of gets you going and makes things look so easy. I think responsibility must play a part in this, and one is to take ownership and be responsible about what you are about, what you do. And over the last couple of years, Della, my wife, has been quite interested in some of the sayings that go down on the internet. And the one saying that she's really put out is that what others have to say about you is none of your business, but what you know about yourself is.
Interesting. What others have to say about you is none of your business, but what you have to say about yourself is.
What you know about yourself.
What you know about yourself.
And that's pretty much something which we've now lived our lives to.
Yeah.
Because you are the responsible person, and if you are a decent person, and if you are a committed person, and other people have seen nonsense and seen different things, it hurts in terms of, and obviously you're getting a feeling of things that have happened in my past that have hurt, but where, and I'm sure we all get into those situations, but where you can stand up and you can look anybody in the face and listen to what they've had to say, and you know what you're about. But that's my business, what I'm about, what I've done for people, what I've done for others. And that makes me my superhero.
I get that. And it's, I think an important thing is to accept that you're only responsible really for yourself. And when it comes to best intentions,
you're not responsible for yourself, Jason. You're responsible, as Anil was saying. There is a communal thing. There is reaching out, but you've also got to say, at what point do I retract? And I've done my bit.
We'll get into that. I just wanted to just say, sorry, Daphne, is that you can't control other people's reactions to what you put out there. So when it comes to that saying, what resonates for me, don't you just want to read it again?
What others have to say about you is none of my business. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But what you know about yourself is.
So I find that very interesting because I work with a lot of people who have very, very large egos, okay? And in fact, I was sitting with my client.
Only nighttime people, Daphne.
Actually, I work with morning people too. It's okay.
But you work with them at night, so their egos are lower.
Yeah, exactly. They're tired. They're in bed. They can't deal with it. So yesterday I was sitting with a client, and it was actually just a fascinating dilemma. I've been working with her for a year now. She's brilliant, 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 smart as a whip. She is leading. She's in pharma. She's leading the development of one of the newest drugs on the market for cancer treatment that has really revolutionized the treatment of cancer and kind of where you get it. And she's done amazing, amazing things, really, really just brilliant on every level. And the issue is her people management, okay? She's, you know, being brilliant does come with sometimes having a very large ego, what can I say? And then when she leads a massive division, works with many people. And if her people are smart, fast-paced, get things done, listen to her, understand her, and she's also very fast and all of that, great, they get on well. As soon as someone comes on the team that's a little bit different to the typical kind of A-type personality, whatever brand that matches hers, there's huge issues, huge. And she's even, you can imagine, a little bit of a bully and all of that. And the company, she wants to now grow into the next level, which is really a global role in the organization. And she's coming up against some really tough things because they're saying you're brilliant and you're next in line, but you can't get that promotion if you don't get your people thing right. You know, you've got to be able to lead people and lead a whole spectrum of different types of people, even if you don't like them or they're a little bit slower than you. You have got to know how to manage them. And we've been working together for a while. And it's been very up and down because you can imagine this kind of journey. It's not an easy one. She's made huge strides in some places, and in some places it's still very hard for her. And the discussion yesterday was that she is just tired. She's tired of it. She doesn't like the people thing. Why does she have to focus on this thing that is her weakness? Like, why? Why can't they just take her successes and see them for what it is and let her fly? And, you know, and it just, actually on some level, I felt really understood and could resonate with her huge struggle. And at the same time, she has to really wake up and see the changes she needs to make and devote her time to it if she really wants to get to the next level. And that's kind of, so when you came up with that quote, I so get it, Des, because we need to know ourselves, and that's at the basis. And she knows herself. She knows it's tough for her, and she doesn't like the people thing. She just wants people who are like her. They can fly together and do what they need to do. And at the same time, she does have to pay attention to what people are saying to her if she wants to, you know, get further. And that's in terms of her leadership ability. For me, leadership, I know it's a huge topic, confusing so many different elements, but at the heart of it is influence. And that's what she needs to learn here, how to influence different people on different levels. So kind of that's what came out for me as we were talking about that. There's so much nuance. There's never black and white. It's never like this or like that. And to understand people struggle through this.
I think, Daphne, what's also interesting around what you've just mentioned is, I'm going to advertise you quickly. Daphne's got a Facebook, a Facebook group. And this week she interviewed, and the idea of the Facebook group is to just chat to people. And I think this week she chatted to a lady, and who was also a successful lady, and she was doing really well in the business. And when it came to her peer review, and when it came to time for, promotions and things,
her performance
the person that was interviewing her held up a mirror and said, well, you're really good at what you're doing. You really are fantastic, but this is as far as you're going to go. And it kind of changed the way she kind of got like shocked and said, well, what do you mean this is as far as I'm going to go? And it turned out that she needed to enhance and improve her her ability to work with others. And once that was actually pointed out to her, she then went on a journey, and that was quite an interesting little talk that you did with her last week. And again, it comes back to that. How do you find your inner strength, and how do you find your inner superpower that you can take out there just to enhance who you are as a leader? And that's,
on that note, Jason, I also put it on LinkedIn, so if anyone wants to just connect.
Yeah, no, I'd be keen to have a look at it. Thanks, Steph.
That's interesting.
I think we need to kind of wrap up. Hey, Jason, we're coming to the hour. I think it's been, for me, certainly an amazing discussion, quite rich. Really like, just also I love to get into it. Like, what does it mean for you? So I would love to hear from each of you, what are you taking away from the conversation?
So for me,
go for it.
I don't know. I'm going to
share your superpower, Jason. So if you want to give us a little.
My superpower, I believe, is I get people. I can sit in front of people. I get them. And I love that. I love being able to just sit in front of someone and without being judgmental, just being able to get who they are and what's going on and talk to them and assist them in actually working through whatever it is that they need. So for me, that's quite a nice superpower. And the other one that I got this morning from my daughter, she told me I'm cringy. So I said, well, thanks. I'm cringy because I was sitting next to her dancing and like playing like my father plays, and she turns around and she said, I'm cringy. So I said, well, you've got a long line of heritage of cringy people. You're going to be one too. We don't have a problem with dancing in front of making ourselves up there.
Anyone who has kids is cringy, just by the way. It's our role, it's our duty. When my kids say I embarrass them, I tell them that's my role, that's my job, I'm doing well.
I think
the other thing that came up is our noses, but she wasn't so happy about that.
Takeaway.
I think then part of my superpower is passing down the cringy bit.
Long line of cringiness. Okay,
so just to end off, Can we end off? Sorry.
Yes.
I am going to end off. A couple of months ago, I said to you that I was busy on a project.
Can we discuss that when I stop the recording, please?
Okay.
Let's just do takeaways. What are you taking away from the conversation? If you can have one sentence from each person, that would be amazing.
I'll go first. To listen more carefully to what people actually tell you and sit down and reflect on it.
Awesome.
Yeah, for me, that's also a big one, to accept what people tell you.
I'm going to echo Anil as well. Just listen to what actually comes your way, and if people do compliment you, take it. So I'm going to set out confidently that I'm going to carry on putting people in a better position, which is really the underlying driver for me. So yeah, let's go out and do it.
Okay. Des, what's your one sentence takeaway?
I think that's good versus evil. Hopefully that the good really outshines the evil.
Awesome.
And Jason? You, Daphne?
So me, I love what's come up today because I love creating frameworks, and what I've got from today is that when you're really clear on your purpose and you're really clear on your superpower, what is your unique ability, and you marry those two, that's what enables you to fly, put on your cape, be the superhero, and really have good triumph over evil. And I want to end with a quote, one of my favorite quotes, and if I get it a little bit wrong, forgive me, but it's that Howard Thurman quote that says, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, because the world needs more people that come alive.
I like it.
Well done.
Because that's what makes you come alive, and that's what the world needs.
Jason, this was a great theme, and it was very good.
Thank you. So I'm going to follow on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What's really nice about them is and where they outshone DC was. So DC, Superman, and Batman, just in case you didn't know, Daphne.
Mm.
Marvel Cinematic Universe is Iron Man
And Wonder
all
Woman.
of that, yeah. So what made Marvel Cinematic Universe overtake the DC movies over the past decade was at the end of each movie, you had to wait until all the credits were run and they came to an end so you could get a brief sneak peek into what's coming up next. Now we're going to keep quiet. And what's coming up next?
Whoa.
Is our next discussion is going to be on how do you brand yourself as a leader and what does your outfit look like?
I know.
Oh, nice. I like that.
We know
In case you didn't know, Daphne, that's what's going.
So we have to get into outfits.
I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you very much.
Morning.